Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today I want to talk a little bit about the California gun culture. You know, this is a topic that came up pretty recently when I was out shooting with a friend who had moved here from Virginia, and the culture shock that he experienced moving from a very gun-friendly area to a very gun-restrictive area. Not only were the rules different, but the people were different. How people reacted, what people thought, and the way that they interacted was so much different for him than it is now, that it's actually very scary, and it does point out the difference between the two cultures that we have as a gun culture here in California and the gun culture that he was experiencing back in Virginia. Now here's a couple of the differences that he was pointing out that he noticed when he moved from Virginia to California. When he moved from Virginia to California, he noticed that pretty much, everybody had a gun where he came from. It was very open. Everybody talked about it. People talked about the things that they liked. It wasn't a big deal if your employer knew that you had firearms, because more than likely he had a firearm too. And it was just an everyday acceptable thing. It wasn't a big deal. Until he moved here, he actually was a little bit afraid to bring up firearms when he was at work because of the stigma that was carried around firearms here in this state. So he was afraid to bring it up. Other gun owners that he worked with, he didn't even know were gun owners. They kept it to themselves as well, because nobody wanted to be labeled a crazy gun nut, which is basically what happens to you in this state when you kind of speak up or speak out, or you talk about let's say you have a love for guns. The mere fact that you love guns in this state honestly sometimes puts you on some kind of watch list, because you must be crazy if you love guns, right? You're a gun nut. So basically, moving from Virginia to California, he experienced something that was difficult for him, because he had to almost keep his enjoyment, his love for guns, secret, because he was nervous. And sometimes in California, you do have to be careful about that, because you have a lot of very progressive, very liberal, very anti-gun leaning people, and they are vicious out here. The reason that they're so vicious out here is because there's no accountability in government. It's such a progressive state with such left-leaning individuals that there are no constituents, or very few constituents, who will speak up against laws that are passed against the Second Amendment here in the state. So when something's passed, you may get, a couple hundred or 1,000. When laws are passed locally, you may only get a couple dozen letters that are written to mayors or to the governor, etc. So there is a small constituency of people who actually speak up. Lots of gun owners, but not very many people that talk about it. People don't want to put themselves in that situation where they may feel that their employer or their friends, if you bring it up, are going to look at you differently. So that's the culture shock that he experienced. Now, I think, and this is one thing that's been brought up to me a lot, okay, by anti-gunners, by trolls, by people who are pro-gun and just want to hear my opinion. And people say, well, what do you do about it? I hear you bitching in all these videos about California gun laws, but what would you do about it? Well, here's what I would do about it. Here's at least one thing that I would do about it. In California, we need to talk more. We need to make it more acceptable. See, the government here in California has pushed everybody into a closet, because you must be mental of some kind. You must be mentally unstable if you have firearms. So they pushed everybody into the shadows. If all of those people that are afraid to speak about their love for guns, their infatuation with all the little things you can add to it, and all the gear and all the great stuff that goes along with it, and just talk about your hobby and your interest and come out of the shadows, more people would be used to hearing about firearms. I saw just on the news last night, they thought they saw some guy with a gun walking near a bridge in northern LA County. Okay, it garnered a massive response of multiple helicopters. There were 100 police units on the search because somebody thought they may have seen a guy with a gun. Where open carry in certain states, it's just so normal. You walk through your Walmart, right, and you see somebody with a gun. It's not a big deal, but they've become so desensitized to seeing firearms in those free states that it's nothing to them. And that's what we need to bring back here. And that's what I would change. I would make it so normal to talk about firearms, or to see firearms, and to make firearms more prevalent in the society, that it wouldn't be such a stigma against them. That would be one of my fixes. And by doing that, it means changing our culture from the inside out. Not being afraid to speak about it. Not being afraid to get in front of the camera and talk about these issues. Not being afraid to start a blog or spread comedy videos, whatever it might be. In California, we have to, as gun owners, millions of us, There are millions of firearms in the state of California. And I know there's a lot of FUDs here too. But if at least a portion of those people would just start talking about their interests a little bit more people would be used to hearing about people talking about firearms here, then that means that the guy from Virginia who just doesn't even see an issue with firearms doesn't have to come here and immediately jump in the shadows for fear of, reprisal from somebody. That is the issue that I see with California gun culture. And I'll tell you what, California gun people are some of the best people that I've ever met. These people that contact me that also live in the state of California, that love their firearms, some of the nicest, most down-home, just happy people that you've ever met. They love their firearms. They love the Second Amendment. They love their Bill of Rights. They just, they're patriots. We have good people here. We just need to speak out more. So that is my message to all of you people who ask, what would you do? That would be my first step. Do you guys remember before Sandy Hook there was a bunch of TV shows on? Do you remember how there was a TV show in Colorado? There was that pedophile son of a bitch and Sons of Guns. We didn't know that at that point. But it was on TV. It was a little bit more mainstream. Sandy Hook, bam, that stuff got cut off. We need to bring it back into the mainstream again. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.